Okay, I wanted to talk about altered landscapes. These are, well, there's a lot of different terms for this. It's earth art, um, sometimes performance art, site-specific art. But in this for this project, all of these things have been documented by the camera, and some of them are photographers, and some of them are considered sculptors, but they just use the camera to document their pieces. Richard Long is a British artist, and he, started these in the 70s. And so here he's walking, it's a lightly snow dusted surface, and he walked in a circle until his feet melted some snow. And then when he left that shape, he took the picture. And it's kind of an interesting, kind of emphasizes the scale again, puts man in this vast landscape. A simple kind of silly idea that actually turns into something very interesting. Here, this was, not the greatest condition of the print, but this is in Peru. And what he did was he walked a mile back and forth, and he moved the rocks. He just kicked them out of the way. And so what was left is this stripe kind of in the middle of this landscape that didn't exist. It did not happen except for him in kicking the rocks. Now, this type of work, this type of altering the space for the photograph, it's not something that harms the environment. Your intention is not to harm or permanently impact the land. Wind, animals, whatever will, move the rocks back. But for a while, this will be forever in this region in Peru. Here he arranged rocks into a shape, again, for the photograph. And so it's a space, but he's changed a part of it. Here, all he did was walk back and forth, flattening the grass. If you lay down in the grass, it'll do the same thing. You have to lay there for a little bit, but the grass kind of bends under your weight and it leaves your shape. This is that idea. Now, Andy Goldsworthy is a very contemporary, very famous, very popular sculptor. And he does not use anything man-made to create his pieces. These are all wedged together, miraculously. I'm not sure exactly how he does everything. There's some really beautiful videos of him online doing this, and you can find out some more information. But he's, wonderfully dealing with formal things. Here, color and shape. It's fall time. He's collecting leaves that have already fallen from the tree. He's not picking things off. He's searching the grounds for objects to use. And then he creates this kind of circle. Here is, I want to say they're bones. They might be bird bones that he's collected and made into a shape. A lot of times he reuses the same shape. If you really study his work, you'll start to recognize it. Here he's carved into the earth. Here he's put a collection of leaves. And when leaves are wet, they stick remarkably wet. I mean, remarkably well. Here he's arranged the leaves, sticking in the bark of the tree. Again, not using glue or staples or anything man-made, just, just putting them in there. And then the way he's standing in relationship to the leaves, the sun is just illuminating them like this tree is on fire. Again, a good gust of wind is going to take all these leaves out, right? So it's temporary. Here's the front view. Here he's on the top one. It's these, again, wet leaves in kind of a snake-like form traveling down this beautiful tree branch. The other one, it's some flowers lined up just along the edge. Here's carving into the sand and then watching it as the tide's coming in, how it's, remember, it's about the temporariness of his work, actually showing it disappear. He'll do the same thing, you know, you see this kind of curly Q kind of line, and he does the same thing on this rock and then goes back over weeks and watches it decompose. This slide should be in front of the other two. So this is the first couple weeks, and then it ends up like this. Here he's getting ice, and the way you get ice to stick to ice is by getting it wet. So he's using his own saliva. He could be using the water behind him, but it's creating this shape around the tree. Yeah, beautiful. Just making a pile of snow, right? And then as the snow melts, beautiful. John Fall is one of my, I just like his wit. These are road flares making the Big Dipper. Here he put straight string on a photograph that is showing some depth, and so that's kind of a playful sense of space. Here he has these, you know, random pieces of sticks, but he wrapped the rocks in tin foil, and now it makes it look like the sticks are kind of cutting through the land, and we're looking at, you know, some kind of genealogical study of the earth rather than just rocks wrapped in tinfoil. Here again, using string to kind of flatten the space where these rocks are kind of jetted out, and it's, you know, he's drawing strings to a certain perspective there. Again, you know, I mean, just, you might think, what do you have laying around? What can you do with that? Sometimes he works directly on a photograph, but in this one is actually in the space. And so these yellow lines are creating this kind of right angle. But like there's a piece of yellow paper or cardboard or whatever literally taped to these spots. Again, you know, using found or available objects and creating some kind of new shape in a space. Judy Natal uses old letterings. Oh, she lives out west, and so she is able to gather some, you know, letterings from maybe Vegas or something like that, but then she puts them in her photographing. Sometimes spelling something out and sometimes not. This looks like the Spiral Jetty, a recreation of it in the sand. You know, playing with different letters. You know, it's not a permanent thing, it's just temporary. Now, I used to do this project, you know, to try to get people to think outside the box. And so they had one class period, and I would give them yarn or tongue depressors or pipe cleaners or whatever it was, and they had to work out what they were going to do with it. And so this group of students decided to fill the yarn in a crack in a tree, right? So it wouldn't have happened. This is kind of an altered landscape, and it wouldn't have happened unless the artist made it happen. I give them all kinds of kinds of stuff. Some of them are good, some of them are whatever, but you know, it's starting you thinking. You know, it really is. And here's they did tongue depressors tracing the tree, and then by the time I got around to seeing their work, the sun had shifted so much. So this was kind of an interesting idea. Whoops, going the wrong way. This is a footprint. Someone, again, they filled in the footprint with the yellow. These are tongue depressors stuck in a crack on a sidewalk, and then they continued it on. The ones with the snow, these are from when I was teaching in Virginia. pipe cleaners in the cracks. Here they wrap the tree. Now this was just for the photograph. When they were done wrapping it, we cut the string, and so it didn't harm the bush at all. That's the thing. It has to be temporary. You can't hurt the environment, but you're changing the space somehow. And so think about that. That could be a really fun way for you to approach this assignment.